Yes, good afternoon all. So, yesterday we have done with biosciences the first chapter, but then we are left over with the Indian contributors and their titles. Little more we have to do, and then we are left over with the objective practice. That we will finish it off, and then we will move to the second chapter for our PGT syllabus biology, that is living world, diversity in life forms, ma'am. So, here if we see Indian contributors in biology and their titles, just a second, I need to check the audio. Yeah. So, Indian contributors, scientists, their contribution and their field of achievement. First, William Roxburgh is the father of Indian botany, wherein the field of achievement he has is botanical research in India introduced scientific taxonomy, and taxonomy in angiosperms also it is Carolus Linnaeus only, ma'am. Next, T. Southwell, father of Indian zoology, early contributors in Indian zoology. Ramdeo Mishra, he is the father of Indian ecology, well known scientist who is the pioneer of modern ecological studies in India. S. P. Kuller, father of Indian palynology who works on pollen analysis and spore classification. Shivram Kashyap, father of Indian bryology who is pioneering in his studies of the liverworts and mosses of bryophytes. S. Chandrasekharan, who is the father of Indian microbiology, his major contributions are in microbial genetics. N. S. Parihar is the father of Indian plant physiology whose extensive work is on plant physiology and anatomy. Yelapragada Subbarao, who is well known scientist, who is the father of Indian biochemistry, he discovered ATP functions and several antibiotics. And there is list of the other scientists also, you can go through it, ma'am. Next, let us look into the questionnaire. Which of the following microbes used in biogas production? Which of the following is used in biogas production? The obvious answer. The questionnaire range is as simple as this only, ma'am. In our final examination also, I have took previous year PGT papers also as reference. Those are methanogens for the first. Which of the following microbes is commonly used in biogas production? Methanogens, where they will convert the methane into carbon, where they will oxidize the organic materials and methane will be released as the product. This methane will be utilized as biogas. Next, ma'am, the process of using microbes to remove environmental pollutants is called as what? Bioremediation, where we have looked into it yesterday, that is bioremediation, the process of removing environmental pollutants, be it metal toxicants or organic metals, anything, all the pollutants, removal of that is bioremediation. And then third question, ma'am. Yeah, third question, which of the following is used as biopesticide? Okay, E. coli, no, it is a bacteria. Next, Clostridium botulism, no, it is a parasitic bacteria. Lactobacillus, we all know it is used in making curd. So, in this way also we can eliminate, and the right option will be Bt cotton, Bacillus thuringiensis toxin. Next, antibiotics are primarily produced by what? Antibiotics are primarily produced by bacteria and fungus. Algae plays no role in that, protozoans no, virus which are just living entities or crystal living entities, so they also do not show any role in the antibiotics. Major things are fungi and bacteria. Best example is our Penicillium notatum. Okay. Next. So, here if we see, yeah, the answer is clear, evident actually. Which of the following is not a role of microbes in industry? Okay, we have learnt all this: enzyme production, microbes play a huge role, alcohol production, organic acid production, but then there is no role of microbes in DNA fingerprinting. And then in traditional Indian households, microbes are used for what? Microbes are used, they are not used for energy generation, DNA cloning, sewage purification also not. They are used primarily in households is for fermenting food preparation, like idli, dosa, batters that we do. For fermentation processes it will be useful. Next, what do aerobic microbes do during secondary sewage treatment? They will do what? They will oxidize the organic matter. After this usage of aerobic microbes, then anaerobic microbes will act on the last sewage material in the secondary treatment, where the organic matter will be oxidized and level of BOD will be increased, okay, biological oxygen demand. And next, yes, which organism is used to produce recombinant human insulin? This is there in our PPT also. So, the recombinant human insulin is produced by Escherichia coli, E. coli. Next, which of the following is considered as biofertilizer? Biofertilizers we have looked into right now, where symbiotic are there, free living are there, of which Azotobacter is a free living nitrogen fixer which is acting as a biofertilizers. The option is not Clostridium tetani, it is causing tetanus disease. And then Trypanosoma, which is a flagellated bacteria, Lactobacillus has its role in making curd. So, the answer for biofertilizer is what? Azotobacter, which is free living, okay. And then biogas mainly contains methane, and this is produced by methanogens. Which of the following branch of biology that deals with classification? Classification, the branch which is dealing is taxonomy. Of course, the clear differences about between taxonomy and classification, types of taxonomy, modern taxonomy, classical taxonomy, we are going to learn clearly in diversity of life forms. So, here the right answer will be taxonomy. What is the role of microbes in sustainable agriculture? Okay. Is it to increase the pesticide use? No. Is it to produce chemical fertilizers? No. This is to fix the atmospheric nitrogen, and this causes plant diseases. Next question, the microbial process used in anaerobic sludge digestion is primarily conducted by, of course, methanogens. In previous year questions also, ma'am, 2 to 3 times the questions appeared on methanogens itself, okay. So, here which of the following is produced by microbes in controlled bioreactors? Okay. In controlled bioreactors, what are produced? Like, it is not penicillin. Penicillin is the antibiotic which is produced by Penicillium notatum. It is not DNA or the cellular energy, that is ATP. The right which of the following is produced by microbes in controlled bioreactors? As we have learned, the microbes like unicellular fungi and bacteria which are involved in production of antibiotics, penicillin which is produced from Penicillium notatum, DNA, ATP and glucose, this do not have any role in the synthesis which is produced in the controlled bioreactors, okay ma'am. Next, which statement best describes the importance of biology? Biology is only for studying animals? No. Biology is unrelated to human welfare? No. Biology is purely theoretical? No. Biology helps in sustainable development and disease control. This will be the right answer. It is just minimal identification for this chapter. Minimal identification. Which organism is widely used in producing citric acid? Citric acid, of course, the answer will be Aspergillus niger. Lactic acid, Lactobacillus. Rhizobium is used in nitrogen fixing, which is symbiotic association. Saccharomyces cerevisiae, which is used as baker's yeast or in brewing industries for making alcohol and all. And then human insulin is produced by recombinant DNA technology using which bacterium? Okay, using which bacterium? Human insulin is produced by recombinant DNA technology using which bacterium? That is E. coli. In n number of ways he might be asking, but the same question, okay. This is from E. coli, recombinant DNA technology. Here, which microbial product is used to improve the texture and flavor of the food? The texture and flavor of the food will be increased by the enzymes, okay. Then like if we have to suppose yeast only, yeast will conduct anaerobic respiration. that is alcoholic fermentation. The enzymes which are involved are what? Alcoholic dehydrogenase, pyruvate decarboxylase. These are the enzymes which are involved in alcoholic fermentation. The more the enzyme rate, the more the activity of anaerobic respiration will happen and the more oxidation of the food will happen. Okay? So, it is the role of enzymes. Next, which of the following microbes is commonly used in baking and brewing? It is of course Saccharomyces cerevisiae, that is yeast. Which of the following statements is true about biopesticides? Okay? So, biopesticides are eco-friendly and they are specific to pests. Okay, they are pest specific. Yeah. The secondary treatment of sewage primarily removes what? Secondary treatment of the sewage will primarily remove organic matter by what? Aerobic sludge digesters. Okay, and thereby that decreases the BOD, biological oxygen demand, increases the dissolved oxygen inside the water bodies, and after that anaerobic microbes will come into picture and they will act on the anaerobic digestion things. And next, which group of microbes include nitrogen fixing cyanobacteria? Nitrogen fixing cyanobacteria is asking. Okay, it is not lactobacillus, rhizobium and methanogens. Of course, it is nostoc. Let us recall some more examples of nitrogen fixing cyanobacteria: nostoc, Olocera and Anabina and Oscillatoria. These are the examples of nitrogen fixing cyanobacteria or blue-green algae. And then, which term describes microorganisms used to enrich nutrient content in the soil? Okay, which will enrich the nutrient content in the soil? Those are biofertilizers, of course. Next, the microbes used in methanogenesis function best under aerobic conditions? No. Methanogens are one type of archaebacteria where they rely on the anaerobic conditions only. They are obligate anaerobes. So, here the option will be B. Which of the following microbial processes is used in environmental detoxification? Be it environmental detoxification or removal of organic pollutants from the atmosphere, the process is what? Bioremediation. Okay. Next, which microbial technique is commonly used to treat industrial wastewater? Industrial wastewater is treated by what microbial technique? Sludge digestion. First by aerobic sludge digesters, next by anaerobic sludge digesters. And then, yeah, which of the following is a recombinant product made using microbial biotechnology? The recombinant product amongst these examples: glucose, of course it is the primary metabolite; lactic acid, which is formed after the lactic acid fermentation; penicillin is an antibiotic. So, the one which is produced by recombinant technology is insulin, and the testing model organism we have used is E. coli. Okay. Next, microbes convert organic waste into biogas primarily in what? Anaerobic digesters. Okay. Organic waste is converted to biogas, means this is the last step which is happening in the sewage treatment, and that is by the anaerobic digesters. And then last two questions of this chapter: which microorganism is commonly used in traditional yogurt preparation? Of course, it is lactobacillus. Last question: which branch of biology focuses on the study of heredity and genes? That is genetics. Okay. Then we will start with the second chapter. Yeah. So, in this chapter we have these concepts to be learnt. First, life and its characteristics. When it comes to characteristic and defining features of life, we have growth and reproduction as characteristic features of life, metabolism, cellular organization, consciousness as defining features of life. So, we have to exercise all the characteristic features of life and defining features of life. First of all, what are the characteristic features? What is the difference between characteristic feature of living organism and defining feature of living organism? We will learn that, ma'am. Characteristic feature is nothing but if that feature is present in both living and non-living things, or it is not present in all the living things. If this is the scenario, then it is said to be the characteristic feature. Let us take the example of growth. How can we define growth? Either increase in cell mass, or increase in number. Okay, that is defined as what? Growth. Growth happens in the non-living things also. When we throw all the pieces at a place, a pile will be formed. That is also considered as growth. So that is why growth is a characteristic feature. When it comes to reproduction, there are many living organisms which are sterile but still living. So then reproduction is also not the defining feature. Defining feature means it should be present in each and every living organism, it should not be present in the non-living organisms. Like if you see cellular organization, that is present in all the living organisms, metabolism in all the living organisms, consciousness, that is responding to the external stimuli, that is also present in all the living organisms. And then classification of living organisms. When this concept comes into picture, we will learn the taxonomy and the types of taxonomy, where it is at 4 steps: characterization, identification, classification and nomenclature. In classification, we will be learning the 7 obligate taxa, okay, and the last is classification. In that we will be learning binomial nomenclature, okay. And then types of classification systems, hierarchy of classification, species concept. We have so many species concept given by n number of scientists, of which the most popular species concept is biological species concept, which is given by Ernst Mayr. And then biodiversity overview from invertebrates to chordates. This will not be dealt by me, till here I will be covering, okay. This will be dealt by sir, okay. Then let us begin the chapter. Yeah. So first, characteristics of living things. Growth, reproduction, these both are the characteristic features. Characteristic features, whereas consciousness, cellular organization and metabolism are the defining features. Let me give you the gist of growth. Growth, as we have discussed, it is nothing but increase in mass or increase in number, okay. But in living things we can define growth as irreversible permanent increase in mass and number, okay. So that is irreversible permanent increase in mass or cell number, that is defined as the growth in living things. So in this we have growth as 2 types: extrinsic growth and intrinsic growth. Extrinsic and intrinsic. As we have discussed, extrinsic growth is reversible change which happens in non-living things, okay, whereas intrinsic growth is irreversible. This happens in living organisms. We know living organisms are of 2 types based on the number of cells. We have unicellular organisms and multicellular organisms. Unicellular organisms, growth and reproduction are simultaneously happening. So we can say, like in unicellular organism, growth is nothing but cell division. The more cell division happens, the more it grows. Cell division is nothing but its reproduction, vegetative mode of reproduction, like binary fission, okay. So here growth and reproduction are mutually inclusive. Growth and reproduction are mutually inclusive. And here if you see multicellular organism, growth and reproduction are mutually exclusive. Let us consider the multicellular organism like plants or animals. Okay. First they will attain the juvenile stage. After the juvenile stage is attained, then only they will enter into the reproductive phase. So, here growth and reproduction are mutually exclusive. Clear, right? So, here growth is nothing but increase in mass or increase in number. In living organism we define as irreversible permanent increase. It is of two types, extrinsic and intrinsic. Extrinsic is reversible change that happens in non-living things. Intrinsic for unicellular and multicellular organisms. Unicellular where growth and reproduction are mutually inclusive. Multicellular organisms, plants or animals, first they will attain juvenile phase and then reproductive phase. Clear, right ma'am? Next, reproduction also we will see. Clear description is given. Once let us look into the theory also. Growth is the increase in size, mass or height of an organism. This occurs by cell division. Animals grew only up to a certain age. In later years there is only replacement or repair of worn out cells. Hence their growth is definite. But the growth in plants will be indefinite or indeterminate type of growth. That indeterminate type of growth in plants is because of meristems, is because of meristematic tissues in that. Meristematic tissues in plant, as we all know, we have primary meristems and secondary meristems which will aid for continuous increase in the plant size. That is why plant growth is indeterminate or indefinite, because of what? Meristematic tissues, both primary meristems and secondary meristems. And then the word indefinite is used for the growth in case of plants. Yes. For example, the great banyan tree in AJC Bose Indian Botanical Garden in West Bengal is 250 years old and is spread across 14,500 meters square. This is one example to say that plants grow indefinitely or indeterminately. Next, in unicellular organisms, growth and reproduction are synonymous. We can say mutually inclusive also, we can say synonymous also. In plants and animals, growth and reproduction are two separate phenomena. Living organisms grow due to addition from inside, that is intrinsic growth. Growth can be extrinsic too, as seen in non-living matter by the accumulation of material on the surface. And then sand dunes, glaciers are good examples for the extrinsic growth. Growth is a property of living beings but cannot be considered as defining feature of the living beings. Clear, right ma'am? This is the complete information of growth. Today we will complete the characteristic features. Tomorrow we will start exercising the defining features of living. So the next is reproduction. From reproduction, what questions we can expect is again examples. What are the modes of the reproduction that we have? That and all we have to look into. Of course, we have two types of reproduction, asexual and sexual. Asexual reproduction is uniparental, wherein single parent is involved. Sexual reproduction is biparental, wherein two parents are involved. Asexual reproduction, this does not involve fusion of gametes, wherein sexual reproduction, fusion of gametes are involved. Next, asexual reproduction, offspring is identical to the parent. Here offspring varies genetically from the parents. Then here asexual reproduction is uniparental, here it is biparental. Next, let us look into all these four modes of asexual reproduction. Very important, so many times the question from reproduction has asked from this area only. Spore formation in fungi. Fungi will multiply by asexual spores. What are the asexual spores of fungi? We have three asexual spores, well noted spores, asexual spores. Those are conidia, sporangiospores, zoospores, aplanospores. All these are the spores of fungi. From this, sometimes the questions might be asked like which are exogenously produced and which are endogenously produced. Conidia is the only asexual spore which is exogenously produced. We have to remember that. And next, these are quite resistant structures and they do not damage easily. Okay. Next, budding in the yeast. In yeast, budding, like from the parent bud, small bud arises. This bud, when detached from the parental body, landing on the suitable substratum, that grows into a new individual again. So, new individuals form from outgrowths on the bodies of the mature organisms. For example, yeast and hydra. And then regeneration in flatworms. Okay. Fragmented parts of the organism, they will regenerate the lost part of their body. Now here, what will be the difference between regeneration and fragmentation? Fragmentation is a mode of vegetative reproduction wherein from a living body, or this is, let us suppose this is a parental body, any fragment which is fragmented from the parental body landing on the suitable substratum will grow into a new individual. But then the lost part is not regenerated, whereas in regeneration, from the parental body, any of the part is lost. Okay. This part will be regenerated and this part also will produce or give rise to a new individual. That is the basic difference between fragmentation and regeneration. Binary fission in bacteria. Binary fission is also considered as amitosis. Binary fission is also considered as amitosis, which is the most common form of reproduction in prokaryotes and few unicellular eukaryotes. For example, bacteria and amoeba. So here if we see mode of asexual reproduction and organism. Asexual spores are seen in fungi. We have learnt looked into all the types of asexual spores, of which exogenously released asexual spore is conidia from conidiophores. Budding in yeast and hydra, regeneration in planaria, fragmentation in fungi, filamentous algae and protonema of mosses. So here you can see the budding process of yeast or hydra. This is the image of hydra, budding process of yeast or hydra. And here you can see how spores are released from the fungi like puffing. Okay. And then this is the image of regeneration from planaria. Okay. Now metabolism. Metabolism which happens in each and every cell of the living being. Okay. What is metabolism? Metabolism is nothing but catabolism and anabolism. Catabolism is nothing but producing or synthesis of the complex molecules. Catabolism is the breakdown of the complex molecules into the simpler ones. One of the best example that we can give for anabolism is photosynthesis process. Best example we can give for catabolism is respiration. Clear? So here you can see the complex molecule is breaking into the simpler molecules and releasing out the energy, whereas here simpler molecules utilizing energy and building up the complex molecules. As this is utilizing energy, this is called as endergonic process. Okay. And as the energy is being released out here, this is called as exothermic process. Endothermic and exothermic, sorry. This is endothermic. Next. So here the description is given where the molecules are broken into the simpler one. Best example is food is broken down in digestion. Here in photosynthesis, where the complex molecules are built up by using simpler molecules. Sum total of all chemical reactions occurring in a coordinated manner is called as metabolism. This occurs both in unicellular and multicellular. So in all the living cells, metabolism is seen. That is why metabolism we will call it as what? Defining feature of living. Non-living objects, they do not perform metabolic process at all, but then in laboratories if we are performing the reactions, metabolic reactions, those are said to be the living reactions but not living cells. Next, reproduction and metabolism. So here if we see all living beings cannot reproduce. So, that is why this is the characteristic feature. We can take the example of infertile couple or worker bee in honeybees. Okay, worker bees, they are living, but then they cannot reproduce. And then mule, which is the offspring, sterile offspring formed by the cross between donkey and horse. Hence, reproduction is not a differentiating character between living and non-living organisms. If you see metabolism, chemical reactions performed in a test tube are neither living nor non-living. We just call them as living reactions. Metabolic reactions performed outside are referred to as living reactions, but not as living things. Now, cellular organization. Okay. The properties of cells are not present in the cell organelles which are in the cells. Okay. So, this we may get in some statements like, we know a cell is having what? Cell organelles. Okay. So, the property of a cell, properties of a cell are not defined by the cell organelles which are in the cell. Okay. The property of a cell is defined by the interactions of cellular organelles, interactions of cell organelles. Same wise, the property of a tissue is defined by the interactions of the cells present in the tissue. Property of an organ is defined by the interactions between the tissues present in that organ. As such, the cellular organization is built from atom to a big living organism. So, if we see into the description once clearly, all living beings are made up of cells, and cells aggregate to form tissues, which in turn aggregate to form organs. Each cell further consists of several organelles. Organelles will interact with each other and they perform functioning of the cell. It may vary, it is a very organized process. Each organelle may be involved in individual function. The function performed by the cells are result of cumulative activities of the organelles. Fine. So, this cellular organization we can see in any living being. That is why we can say that cellular organization is a defining feature. Now, let us go to the last defining feature of living, that is consciousness. So, this is a state of awareness which responds to the external stimuli. So, consciousness we can see both in plants, animals, unicellular organism. Let us first come from unicellular organism. Amoeba. Amoeba will move like this with the help of pseudopodia, which is the false feet. Whenever it gets in close contact with food, with endocytosis it will grasp food, and through exocytosis it will release the broken undigested particles. Okay. So, that is one movement which is showing towards food by unicellular organism, that is amoeba. Let us look into some bacterial taxis we will say, right, wherein bacteria will move away from the danger sites and it will go close to the closer environments which is favorable for it. That is for unicellular organisms. And for multicellular organisms like plants, if we have to consider, photoperiodism, that is one of the best example, wherein plants flower, seasonal breeders in animals, plant flowering, that is photoperiodism. Based on that we have long day plants, short day plants, day neutral plants. Okay. This is all what responds to the external stimuli. Okay. So, consciousness or responding to the external stimuli is also considered as irritability. Okay. Consciousness or responding to the external stimuli is also considered as irritability. Okay. So, it is a state of awareness of surroundings and response to external stimuli. Examples include sense organs and photoperiod. All cells from prokaryotes to eukaryotes respond to external factors. For example, folding of leaves in Mimosa pudica, that is touch me not plant, that is also a response. So, consciousness is defining feature for all living organisms. Here I have to highlight one more concept, that is self-consciousness. Self-consciousness which is present only for the human beings, for self-awareness, that is not distinguished in all other living organisms. Okay. So, today from this chapter we have exercised characteristic features and defining features of living. Tomorrow we will look the closer concepts of taxonomy and classification. Thank you.